The 2025 MLB postseason was one to remember. From the Yankees taking 2 in a row off the Red Sox to win the wildcard matchup, to Tarek Skubal racking up Ks, to the Cubs and Padres never being more than 3 runs apart, to the Mariners and Tigers needing 15 innings in a decisive Game 5, to George Springer's Game 7 heroics, to the Dodgers pitching staff's complete dominance over the Brewers' bats, there was no shortage of must-see baseball. And it culminated in a World Series for the ages, with so many iconic moments, and a Dodgers team that ultimately took home their 9th World Series title. As incredible as it all was, the 2025 postseason also featured its fair share of head-scratching and fan rage-inducing decisions. Of course, this tends to come naturally with sports, since every winning moment has another side to it. But in this video, I'm going to focus on what I found, in hindsight, to be the most costly managerial decisions of the 2025 playoffs. To balance it out, and not make this video purely crap on managers, since I do in general think they get too much of the blame, I'm also going to share some of the best decisions from this year's October Baseball and Fall Classic. To kick things off, let's turn our attention to Game 2 of the Red Sox and Yankees AL Wildcard Series. A game in which the Red Sox could punch their ticket to the DS with a win. The reason I put this particular moment as an honorable mention is because an argument can be made that the blunder should be largely accredited to a lack of execution rather than managerial decisions, but let's explore it anyways. Top of the 7th, game tied at 3. With Fernando Cruz warming up behind him, Yankees starter Carlos Rodon walks Nate Eaton on 4 pitches, uncorks a wild pitch, and after falling behind Jarren Duran 3-0, plunks him to give the Red Sox runners on first and second with nobody out. The lack of command to start the inning stuck a fork in Rodon, and in came Cruz to face the number 8 hitter, Cedar Rafaela. Here's where the choice between blaming the player's execution or a pair of coaches' decisions came into play. Alex Cora asking Rafaela to bunt was not a completely egregious choice, since if laid down successfully, it would move 2 runners into scoring position with only 1 out and bring the go-ahead run just 90 feet away from scoring. What could be criticized about it was that Cedar hadn't successfully laid down a bunt since mid-June, and it showed, with Rafaela lunging outside of the zone and ultimately popping his second attempt back to the pitcher, aka a lack of execution. Cora's second questionable decision was not pinch hitting Nick Sogard for Yoshida or Lowe, instead saving Yoshida to hit for ref Schneider with 2 outs. Ultimately, Cruz was able to get out of it, reacted as if he had won the World Series by doing so, and the Red Sox later lost that game and the series. The New York Yankees didn't win the World Series, so naturally, Yankees fans are upset. And while the finger of blame is being pointed in a lot of directions, the one place it seems to be pointed more than any other is at manager Aaron Boone. Over the course of the ALDS matchup with the Toronto Blue Jays, Boone made a number of decisions that ignited fury amongst the Yankees faithful. From not playing Rosario or Dominguez enough, to going to Will Warren as the first one out of the pen in a tough spot in Game 2, to not pinch hitting for a struggling Volpe in Game 4, it was tough to pick what to give Aaron the most criticism for. But I've chosen the decision to pull wildcard hero Cam Schlittler in favor of Devin Williams in the top of the 7th in Game 4. With the Blue Jays up 2-1 both in the game and series, Santander popped up to start the inning, Ernie Clement singled as he seemed to do all postseason, and thanks to a Jazz Chisholm error, the Blue Jays had runners on first and third with 1 out. It was at this point that Boone decided to pull Schlittler. What was controversial? A few things. A. Schlittler was only at 88 pitches on the night. B. Yes, the pitch to Jimenez was squared up, but it should have been an inning-ending double play. C. Williams threw 26 pitches the night before. And D. David Bednar was the Yankees' best reliever down the stretch, making him a more logical choice for what could be the biggest spot in the game. Yes, Bednar also threw 21 pitches the night before, and Williams had been good for the Yankees in his first 3 postseason outings after an up-and-down regular season, but the biggest moments, especially when facing elimination, should come down to best versus best. And even though Williams got the strikeout of Springer, a Nathan Lucas single ended up putting the game and series on ice. After losing both games at home to start the ALCS, things looked bleak for the Blue Jays heading into Seattle for 3. But after back-to-back statement wins to even the series, the Blue Jays found themselves 6 outs away from taking all 3 in Seattle in front of the Mariners faithful. With 2-3-4 of the Mariners lineup due up, Blue Jays manager John Schneider shocked the entire country of Canada when he elected to bring in lefty Brendan Little to start the inning. What made this decision inexplicably horrible? Oh, let me count the ways. Number 1, Blue Jays closer Jeff Hoffman and primary setup man Sir Anthony Dominguez were both available for use. Number 2, while Brendan Little's movement can be elite, he also struggles to throw strikes, averaging almost 6 walks per 9 innings in the regular season. Number 3, when Brendan can't get a hitter to chase, his get me over stuff is incredibly pedestrian. And the biggest factor, number 4, Little being a lefty turned both switch hitters Cal Raleigh and Jorge Polanco to hit right-handed, which guess what, is the side they both hit substantially better from. What John Schneider, pitching coach Pete Walker, and anyone else who helped to make this decision were thinking was not founded in logic, to say the least. And what happened was further proof of that. The big dumper homered to left, Polanco walked, and even the left-handed hitting Naylor walked before Little was replaced, forcing Dominguez to inherit an incredibly tough spot. And Gino made the Blue Jays pay. Purely based on logic, to me, this was the dumbest coaching decision of the playoffs. But I had to put it at number 2, only because of the stakes to my number 1. Flash forward 2 games in the same series. Up by 2, the Mariners now found themselves 9 outs away from their first ever trip to the World Series. After a scoreless 2 innings of relief, Mariners starter Brian Wu walked Addison Barger and gave up a single to IKF to start the inning. Jimenez did what Rafaela couldn't do for the Red Sox and bunted both runners into scoring position before Dan Wilson decided he didn't want Wu to see the top of the Blue Jays order for a second time in the game. Wilson turned to the electric arm of Eduard Bazardo, who would be making his team-leading 9th postseason appearance, including a 2-inning outing the night before, that also included facing George Springer. But Bazardo's usage wasn't what made this decision aggravating for Mariners fans. It was that lights-out closer, Andres Munoz, wasn't turned to instead in this, the likely biggest spot of the game. Instead, Wilson seemed to play it traditionally, holding out Munoz for a potential 9th inning save opportunity, an opportunity that would never come thanks to what George Springer did to this Bazardo sinker. That shot ultimately sent the Blue Jays to the World Series and pushed the Mariners' World Series appearance-less streak to 49 years, the same age that they happen to be as a franchise. Now to give this Blue Jays and Mariners series a dose of managerial decision-making positivity. Sort of. To do that, we're going to have to go back to the bottom of the 5th inning in Game 4. On the hill for the Blue Jays was the Cooperstown-destined legend Mad Max Scherzer, who decided to show us all that at 41, he still has plenty of the mad in him. With the Jays up 4, and after securing the second out of the inning, albeit on a well-hit ball by Rivas, manager John Schneider elected to pay Max a visit. And it only took him taking a few steps onto the field for Max to notice and begin to vocally voice his displeasure. John never signaled towards the pen, and thank God he didn't, because I don't think Max would have let him make his way back into the dugout. Ultimately, Max was good, just like he proclaimed that he still was, not only striking out a Rosarena to end the inning, but also getting both the big dumper and Julio to start the next inning, before a walk to Polanco put an acceptable end to his night. So I'll give the managerial flowers on this one to Max, because we all know he's the one who actually made the decision. Sitting at number 2 is another one that I'm not entirely sure how much credit to actually give the manager versus the player. Aside from a meh outing against the Phillies in the NLDS, Yoshinobu Yamamoto was an absolute animal in the playoffs. Most prominently in the World Series, where he not only pitched 9 innings of 1-run ball to secure the win in Game 2, was getting ready to pitch if needed in Game 3's 18-inning affair, he pitched 6 innings of 1-run ball in Game 6 to help force a Game 7, and he towed the rubber yet again the very next night, throwing 2 2/3 of scoreless baseball to pick up the win, World Series title, and World Series MVP trophy. So what's the decision to be praised here? Dave Roberts' choice to let Yamamoto pitch as much and as frequently as he wanted to. I think even Dodgers fans will concede that had Dave put his foot down and elected to pitch him solely on his scheduled days, the Dodgers would not be back-to-back champs. The best coaching decision of the 2025 postseason for me came on, of all things, a defensive substitution. What made it even more remarkable was that it wasn't even made to either coincide with a previous pinch hit decision, or at the very least to start a new inning. To find it, we have to go to the bottom of the 9th of a tied Game 7 of the World Series. Guerrero Jr. flied out to start the inning, Bichette singled, Barger walked, the Dodgers bring in Yamamoto, and he hits Kirk to load the bases. It's at this point that Dave Roberts elects to pull center fielder Tommy Edman from the game in favor of Andy Pages, a far superior outfielder to Edman at this stage in his career, but who lost his spot in the starting lineup because, well, he couldn't hit if his life depended on it. But back to the game, a whole other overanalyzed and now controversial moment occurred on the infield, and then Roberts' foresight was put on full display. Ernie Clement clubs a ball 366 feet to left center, and all of Canada is ready to erupt until the just substituted in Pages, according to StatCast, travels 121 feet at 29.2 feet per second to bowl over Kike Hernandez and make a World Series saving catch. Of course, there is no way to know for sure whether Edman would have also caught it, but I don't think many people think he would have, and Kike's route and body angle certainly suggest he wasn't going to have it either. So I can only give Roberts and his staff credit for always being sharp and making that incredible choice. That's my list of the best and worst from the dugout brass of the 2025 postseason. Were there any that I included that you disagree with? And what others should I have added to either side of the ledger? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe for even more baseball content.